Hey, it's Alan Berg. Before we get into this episode, I'm starting something called Ask Me Anything. That's right. You submit your questions and they could become an entire episode or something that I answer at the end of an episode. To submit your questions, look for the red button at podcast.alanberg.com. That's right, podcast.alanberg.com. Click on the red button, submit your question, and maybe you'll hear it here on the podcast. Thanks. Is your contact form hurting your business? Ooh, listen to this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Berg. I'm a speaker, author, sales trainer, website reviewer, and I help businesses like yours sell more, profit more, and have more fun doing it. Enjoy this episode. Hey, it's Alan Berg. Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I am so glad to have my friend Mark Chapman back on to talk about something we were talking about offline, and I said, I'm starting the recording here. Mark, how you
It's
doing?
so fascinating. It's all good. I'm doing great. I love being here. Thanks, Alan.
So you and I have these great conversations before and after we do recordings, and we just recorded an episode about advertising what's different now. And you said, hey, one more thing after we had stopped the
I'm so
recording.
sorry.
No,
Always
no, no,
one
no,
more
no,
thing.
don't be sorry. This is fantastic. It's fascinating to me. So we were talking about contact forms and required fields and things like that. And you said that you've seen something working really well, except it's not being followed through. So what is the change that you've done on your landing? Well, actually tell people what it is. So
Yeah.
they advertise and then there's a landing page. What is that for the people that don't understand what that is?
So a landing page is a dedicated page that's not a full website. It's sort of like a one-page experience about your venue, let's say, where it's paired with an ad where you're showing an ad maybe on Facebook, Instagram, Google, whatever, and someone clicks on the ad and they visit this dedicated page that really is the purpose of it is to share all about your venue, photos, maybe video tour or whatever, and give people a chance to fill out a form or contact you. It's not a full website, but a more succinct version that sort of expedites the lead conversion process.
And takes away the distractions of all the other things that are on your main
Yeah,
website,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly. Yep.
Little put blinders, especially if you don't just do weddings. It takes away the mitzvahs and the quinceas and the
Great
corporate
point.
work that they can't see any of
They
that
don't
stuff.
want to know you do mitzvahs. They want to think you're just weddings, and that landing page is the solution.
Right. So it's like it's a mini web page, but not too small. Okay. So
Yeah.
contact form is right on the page.
That's correct. So we give people an opportunity on the page to fill out a contact form if they want packages and pricing for the venue. I'm going to use venues as the example, but it can be done for other types of businesses too. But so here's a form on the page. It says, hey, drop your information in if you'd like packages and pricing. And the form basically has name, email, phone number, and their ideal wedding date. Now, here's what we do we've been changing and is fascinatingly making a huge difference. We don't make the phone number field required. And we also put a little bit of text there. It says, drop your phone number in if you prefer texting. And what is happening, Alan, is wild and crazy. 80% of people who fill out the form put their phone number in, indicating that they prefer texting as the way that they want to be contacted. We didn't expect it to be that much. It is
Right.
literally blowing our minds, but it makes sense.
All right. So a couple of things there. The
Yep.
wording, I love it. Drop your phone number in.
If
Right.
you
Is
prefer
it
texting.
is
Yeah.
a very conversational way of saying that.
Great
Drop your
point.
phone number in instead of please enter your phone number if texting is your preferred method of communication. Right.
And we're going to call you and leave
Right.
voicemails.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and now the other thing is that packages and pricing. And I know with like the Knot and Wedding Wire, where I have extensive experience because I used to be VP of sales at the Knot, I know that when they test different wording, and a lot of you get frustrated because 50% of your leads say the same thing because they're choosing the wording, asking for pricing and packages gets better conversion than other wording and other phrases that have been asked for because that's what people think they need. So I'm
Mm.
sure you've done
Yeah.
ABC testing on this stuff, right?
We've actually tested literally like hundreds, maybe even thousands of different like offers or like call to actions on the landing page. And really what it comes down to is meeting the couple where they're at in their journey of searching for that venue
Okay.
or professional, which is
Okay.
packages and
So
pricing.
right. So if you're not a venue, right, preferred wedding date is not going to be the choice over there. So if you are a photographer or a DJ or a videographer or something else, it wouldn't be preferred wedding date. It could be your wedding date that you could ask for their wedding date. You
That's right.
you you don't have a box for them to be able to say anything, type anything.
Typically, no. Actually,
Okay.
sometimes yes, but it doesn't really make a difference. It hasn't had any
Okay.
impact on like, is there any valuable information being put into that box by the couple that like is
Yeah.
going to help you? Not really.
Right. And,
Yeah.
and if you want to put a box, don't just say message, right? Because you want to direct them a little bit more. I would also not be so esoteric that you would say, "What's your vision for the day?" Because not everybody thinks that way.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to say something like, what would you like to share with us about your wedding?" or something like that, or if there's something specific to your business that you could ask about maybe different services. Okay. But I
Some of
love
our
the
venues, sorry, some of our venues ask like, tell us your love story or like tell us about your engagement, which is
okay.
super cute. And not everyone fills it out, but I think there's a lot of couples who are really, really excited about what their story is. And it does
Right.
kind of give you a little bit of an insight into that lead and who their personality is and what they're into. So,
Right. And
yeah.
just because they had a great engagement story doesn't mean they're going to tell you because some people
Yeah, they
just
want to fill
don't.
it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my son who's engaged definitely stepped up over his parents because we got engaged in the front seat of my car in Queens in New York on the
Oh, how
street.
romantic.
And my son proposed in Strasbourg, Austria, gave her a ring that belonged to his great grandmother. So little step up.
That's a
Well,
win.
that's a win
Yeah,
right there. So, but again, I think about their personalities and tell us about your engagement. They might not, right? Even though it's a
it's
great
okay.
story,
Yeah.
they might not. But that's also a mirroring thing. We mirror the
Yeah.
style of the people. The person that tells you, "Oh, I'm so glad you asked because we were in Strasbourg, Austria. Have you ever been to Austria? It's really nice." So first we went to Switzerland, and then we were in Austria.
Mm.
Then we went to France after, right?
Hmm.
Those are people. That doesn't mean that person's any more of a buyer than the person that doesn't tell you anything.
Right.
It's because it's
They're
personality
busy.
style,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
But okay, so what that form does not do is interrogate them with all these other things that you will eventually need to know. And I'm sure
Right.
you've tested that as well. So name, now do you do first name, last name, or is it just name?
We actually separate it out, but
Okay.
it probably isn't going to matter, to be honest. We like to separate
Okay.
out because a lot of people have like CRM softwares where you can separate first name and last name, and
Right.
we like zap that information into the software.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking, because if you just ask name, you might get just the first name. You
Right.
might not get a full name. So first name, last name, email, drop your phone number in if texting is your preferred method of
That's right.
communicating. There you go. And then again, one other field. And we know statistically, I don't know if you know the numbers, but every field you add, less people fill it out.
Reduces the number of people that are going to fill out your form all
Right.
day long. And I
Right.
can support that with Alan. This is like literally all of our advertising data. When we look at the data and conversion rates on forms that have more form fields than less, it is clear as day all day long. It's been that way forever. More form fields, less leads.
Right. So it's not that you will eventually need to know those other things. It's you don't need to know it today
Yeah.
to get and I'd say save some questions, right? Like save some questions to ask them. And I
Yeah.
like to do the softball questions. I call it the low friction questions or the, low commitment question. Ask the question that they don't have to ask their partner, that
Yeah.
they don't have to think about, such as, are you going to be having your ceremony and reception at the same location? Or how many guests are you expecting? Or if you're a photographer, will you be getting ready at the venue or at another location? Right?
Yeah.
Save those questions because they'll answer those quickly versus other questions that they don't want to answer at all, like their budget, or they don't, they have to talk to their partner, or,
Yeah.
what's my vision for the day? Oh, I don't know. Let me think about that. You want
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
answer now.
Yeah.
Don't ask
Yeah.
them that. So, what are some of the other tips there in terms of contact forms, both through their advertising and, of course, this will translate to your website and everything else you do? What are some other good tips?
Yeah, well, I want to quote my good friend Alan Berg, who said, ask only enough to start the conversation. And that rule can be applied to anywhere where you're like top of the funnel, front facing with people. We're talking about landing pages now, but that really can apply to your website too. There's nothing wrong with having like a request a quote form on your website if people are a little bit more serious, but make sure that there's another form on your website that's simpler, or make sure that your website has your phone number in the banner and the sticky header at the top that says text us, so they can like text you and ask you a question. It's all about making the person who's at your site who doesn't know you, because typically it's a cold, especially with advertising, it's a cold audience. They don't know, like, and trust you.
Yeah.
Give them the opportunity to talk with you without forcing them into your processes that are not what they want in that moment.
All right. And again, is it easier for you or easier for them?
Yeah.
Which I think we said on the last episode. I know it would be easier.
Yep.
for you if they would just fill it out. It goes right into your CRM. It goes into your drip campaign. You start responding to them, and there you
Yeah.
go. And you didn't have to do anything. But the truth of the matter is, this is a very large purchase in most cases, right? And even if you're not the biggest purchase, so if you're not the venue or the caterer, still spending, four figures or five figures on something is a large purchase for people,
Yep.
and they don't know what they're shopping for. They want you said it, no like and trust. So if you go back to an episode I did with Bob Berg, Burg, who wrote the Go Giver series, with John David Mann, I had Bob on, right? Because he's the one who said that, all things being equal, people will do business with people they know, they like, and they trust,
All day.
right? And
Yeah.
that's the relationship. It's relational, not transactional.
Yep.
And when you have a form that's got so many fields on it, like an RFP type thing, request for proposal, which is common for corporate, it feels transactional.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about websites. So with the advertising, they go to the landing page, the form is right there. We're trying to make it clear both in text and with the form. If you want to get more information, this is what you do, right? You can call us, you can email us, you can text us, whatever. What I see on websites, and you touched on this a little bit, is I see buttons that don't relate to what's going to happen when you go next. And
Yeah.
there's a book on my bookshelf. I've referred to it before. Waiting for Your Cat to Bark is this marketing book, and it says to think about the buttons on your site as questions that get answered when you click on them. So
Yeah.
that's why you don't want to have read more, read more, read more, read more, read
Yeah.
more, because I don't know what I'm reading more about. But what I see a lot of is book now
Yep.
that goes to a contact page, right? So the promise is book me
Yeah.
now, but you broke the promise because you went to contact us.
Or same thing with request a quote. A lot of people like have that button that says request a quote and it goes to the contact page and it may have like form fields about the quote, but it's like yourwebsite.com/contact. And it's
Yeah.
like there's a disconnect there that erodes people's trust. Not they wouldn't think of it that way, like outwardly, like, oh, I don't trust this website, but they're like, oh, this doesn't really match up. Like I'm not having a
Right.
good experience.
Well, there's the
Yeah.
dissonance, right? There's the
Yeah.
friction that you're adding there. So I think, first of all, if you say get a quote and it goes to a contact page that says contact us, and I had this just the other day with a client, did I get to the right place? Right. Because I clicked on get a quote and it went to contact us. So what I suggested with this client was have two forms. One
Yep.
is a get a quote form and one is a contact form. The contact form is short. So again, like you said, for the landing page, the name, the email, the phone, and I love that. Drop your phone number if texting is your preferred method. And then make, and again, if you want to, one other field, right? Just try to
Sure.
stick to one other field. And then the
Yeah.
get a quote, say at the top, we'd love to give you pricing information. In order to do so, so you don't pay for things you don't need and you don't pay any more than you have to, we just need these details. This will take you 4 minutes to fill this out. And then you
Yep.
can give them that long form, because the promise is at the end of this, I'm going to give you a quote as opposed to I'm going to answer your question. So do
Yeah.
that. But the wording on the buttons is so important. I say the difference between a 7-year-old and a 27-year-old is the 7-year-old pushes every button to find out what happens.
Mm.
And the 27-year-old doesn't push the button unless they know what's going to happen,
Hmm.
right? So the
Yeah.
promise of the wording, get a quote, should go to get a quote form. Contact us should go to
Yeah.
a contact form. Check availability should go to a calendar where I put in that, right? But it
Yep.
shouldn't be the only thing. And
Yeah.
and do you see people, I don't know if they're doing what, if you suggested, but telling them, listen, if you want to do a check availability thing, that's fine, but also have this ask a question one separate.
Yeah, like if we're talking about like maybe a main website with lots of different
Yeah,
options, you're right.
right.
Like honestly, the more ways that they can contact you or ask a question or do whatever they want to do, the better. Like have that request a quote form, have the contact form, have the ask a question form. It's okay because a lot of people are at a different point in their journey. So I think I support that all day long. And then though it can be a little bit to administrate like the different forms and things, and so get
Well,
overwhelming, but
But,
yeah,
but, but again, what I did is I created a separate email address for all of my form inquiries.
perfect. Yeah.
So I won't miss them. Now they also go first into the CRM. The CRM
Yeah.
then sends me an email with the information. So I get an email, which means someone has filled out the form. It's already in my CRM. So I don't have to enter their first name, their last name, all that kind of stuff. It's already in there. So
Yep.
that's already been done. But I also said, send me an email, not to my main Alan@allenberg.com, because I don't want to miss it. Because
Yep.
it's a waterfall. It's constantly. And the only thing that comes into that email is those. So
Hmm.
that way, if
That's
I
cool.
look like I'm in Outlook and I have one, two, three, four, five, six, 7 different emails, And that's not including our secret shopping ones. I have 7 different emails here, and I can see I have one new message here, one new message here, 7 new messages over there, and I could break it down, or I could look at the main box with everything.
Yeah. And you can prioritize like, oh, new quote request, like top
Right.
priority. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, but that
Yeah.
lets you it gives you visibility, and this
Yep.
is a very low tech way to do it. Is just creating another email address. That's all it
Yeah.
is, right?
Hey,
So
and you know, one other thing I wanted to point out or like talk about is the location of the form on the page. And I'd actually love to find out if you like what your thoughts are on this too.
yeah.
So, like, if someone clicks that contact button and it goes to a contact page, do not put 10 paragraphs about your business and all. Like, if they've decided they want to contact you and they've clicked the button, okay, maybe a couple sentences of like what's going to happen after they fill out the form so they know what to expect, but put the freaking form at the top of the page because that's what they want.
Well,
Um,
look on mobile because on desktop
exactly,
it might look like it's at
exactly.
the top of the page. I had this just the other day.
All day.
When you
Yeah.
went on desktop, to the left was contact information, address, and all that kind of stuff for this venue. To the right was the form. But when you went on mobile, all
All
of
that
that stuff went on
stuff.
top, went on top.
And
So
someone clicked that contact button and they had to scroll through all the other things that they actually didn't want to do to get to the form. And a lot fewer people are going to fill out the form because they're like, this is not what I wanted.
now maps, that was another thing that I find, right? So your contact
Mm,
page has a map on it. Now I go to mobile and I'm
yep.
trying to scroll past the map. And what happens?
You're
The
scrolling
map
on the
starts to
map.
move. The map starts to
Yeah,
move, right?
yeah.
You've seen that. I've seen that.
I'm so
I
annoyed.
this was an episode I did. If you can't walk a mile in their shoes, at least take a few steps. Right.
Yeah.
Go to your own website. Try to do that stuff. Try to scroll. And if you're scrolling in the map, put the map below the form. Don't put the
Yep.
map. I have to get past that. Um, PDFs, right? Again, I think a PDF is a wonderful format, but not for mobile
Yep.
because it's
Too
tiny.
small.
Restaurants, if you're listening, stop putting your menus in PDFs and making us scan the QR code at the restaurant to see your 11 by 17 menu on my phone,
Hmm.
right? Because they haven't walked a mile in our shoes. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it is. If you traveled as much as I do, eat out as much as I do, this is a constant frustration where
Yeah.
I go to your site and I even have I saved a business card for a place in Vegas I just ate at, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
And that was, I'm going to give them a great review, but I'm going to ding them for that because when I'm
Yeah.
trying to see what I want to eat, it literally was an 11 by 17. In other words, their
Yeah.
printed
Yeah.
menu.
Yeah. You
Right?
shouldn't have to pull out your reading glasses and like and really, really tight, you know? Yeah.
Pinch, 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 pinch,
Yeah.
pinch. So, but this is again walking a mile in their shoes. Do you know how much of your traffic is mobile? If you don't have Google Analytics, it's free. Get it added to your site. Take a
Yeah.
look at that. What are you seeing from your clients? I know you work with a lot of venues, but also other businesses.
Yep.
How much of their traffic is mobile these days versus desktop?
Typically around 70 to 80%.
Okay. Yeah, it's that
Yeah.
high now. Okay.
It's really, really, really high. Yeah.
I see clients that are, 50-50 and more. And it could be different with some of the other categories as well, but I don't see anybody these days who's getting more desktop than mobile. It's rare. Now, if you're
Yeah.
doing corporate work and stuff, like for me, I'm 70% desktop still. Right.
Because you're
And
a business to business. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. But I can also tell you that my first website, I left the knot in 2011. So my first website went up in 2011 and it was about 25 to 30% mobile and it's still 25 to 30%. So I look at trending. That's what for me
Yeah.
analytics is for, is trending.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
trending, it wavers between 25 and 30% like this little tiny sine wave. That's all it
Yeah.
does. Whereas my
Yeah.
clients, it's gone and then just keeps going.
And there's a caveat to what I'm sharing too, because when we look at Google Analytics, we're looking at our members and we're doing advertising for them. And advertising is literally like 99% mobile these days. And
Yeah.
so for that reason, if we're looking at analytics and we're analyzing what's happening, it's because so much traffic is coming from mobile devices from their ads, because
Right.
TikTok is 100% mobile, Instagram is 100% mobile. Facebook, who even knows what Facebook is anymore? You get the idea. So
Right.
for
Right.
that reason, I want to share that caveat, and it could be lower, a little bit lower in other scenarios, but in the context of advertising, literally 80%.
Right. And
Yeah,
but either way, just assume that it's more than 50-50. And if you are not looking at your own site on mobile, trying to manage your own site on mobile, if you create a landing page, look at it on mobile.
yep,
So with my site, even though it's 25 to 30% mobile, there's a contact form on every page.
yep,
So even though it's not technically a landing page, it is, because if somebody says, I want mastermind information, I'm going to send them to that page.
yep,
And that page has everything that they need, including a contact form. And what it says is call, which is a link to dial, text, which is a link to text me,
Yep.
email, which is a link to email me, or use the short form on this page, which is a link and it takes you to the form regardless of where you are on the page. So if you're
Yep.
below it, it'll take you up. If you're above it, it'll take you down. If it's mobile and it goes to the bottom of the page, it takes you and it doesn't have to
You
reload.
beat me to it. You totally beat
Okay.
me. So, like a lot of times we put the form at the bottom of the landing page or the page on the website, and there are
Yeah.
buttons on that page that bring you to that form. By clicking it, it zooms you down automatically to the bottom of the page so that you can fill out the form. And it allows people to read the content of the page to be convinced that they should contact you, right? So, like people can read as much as they want, and we repeat that call to action button periodically throughout the page so that if any point they read 50% of the page, okay, I'm ready, I want to contact them. Maybe they need to read 75% of the page before. So putting the form at the bottom is a really great way if it's not the contact page itself.
Right. And
Yeah.
and again, you don't want the form to be the first thing on the page because they just got there. And
They
and
aren't going to fill it out. They don't know
right.
you.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's like the
Yeah.
websites that I see where on their homepage, right below their hero or on the hero image, it says book now. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I just got here. That
Yeah. We could go
that's
down that
the
rabbit trail about what the book now called, where that button
right.
should be all day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, but that's the aggressive salesperson when you walk into a store that's, trying to sell you as soon
Yeah.
as you walked in. It's like, I just got here.
Yeah.
Give me a chance. Let me get a little comfy over here. Okay. So coming full circle over here. Contact forms,
Yep.
as we agree, shorter better. Statistically, shorter is better. Every field you add. You're not trying to make it easy for you, you're trying to make it easy for them. You
And
need
this
to
isn't opinion. This is data-based science. Like it is
right.
not Alan's opinion. It's not Mark's opinion. It literally is. We've spent $25 million in advertising and managed that amount of money in advertising over the last 10 years. And like all day long, we will look at contact forms. That is how it goes.
And then the wording on the buttons important because it has to fulfill the
Super
promise.
important.
And then
Yep.
something if you missed it that Mark just said before is contact us multiple times throughout the page.
Yep.
Don't wait to the bottom to have a contact us button.
Yep.
And my opinion, and again, this is opinion, you tell me if this is database fact. If I have to scroll on my mobile
Yeah.
more than if I have to go to a second screen before I saw a contact, like I shouldn't have to go to a third screen to see contact. Are you doing it on every screen on mobile or every other or what?
You know how we solved that, Alan, is we have sticky headers at the
Okay.
top. So the sticky header is like, if you're scrolling, the logo and maybe a call to action button and your menu, maybe the hamburger money, stays at the top on no matter where you're at on the page. It doesn't take up too much of the screen,
Right.
but so that gives the opportunity to convert at any point in their journey. But repeating that button is really important too.
That's what I meant. How
Yeah.
often is that button? If I'm on mobile, is that every screen, every other screen?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm sorry I don't know the answer to that, but I would
Okay.
say it's like at least at the minimum every other screen.
Okay.
And it is at the top as well, because
Right.
you want people to understand what is the action you want them to take on this page of your website. So they're probably not going to click that button at the top because they don't know you yet. They haven't read
Right.
anything. But if you tell them, learn about our packages and pricing, and then they know what the page is about and what to expect.
Right. So that's what I was getting at. So in my opinion is at least every other screen. It doesn't
Yep.
necessarily have to be every screen. And if they're on desktop, that every other screen probably becomes, one screen.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the next one. Just remember, they can't see the one that they scrolled past now. They're only
That's
looking
right.
at the one there. That's why you have to say it again, make
Yeah.
it easy, reduce that friction. All right,
Yeah.
Mark, thank you for coming back on. I know it's kind of a passion and pet peeve of ours together.
It's both. It's
it,
both,
it
but I
is
love it. Yeah.
it is, but but we both love the science of it as well as the practicality of it.
Yeah.
It just makes sense. It just
Yeah.
makes sense to do it that way. So doing what's easier for them, wording on the buttons, shortening that contact form, making it easier. Don't say book us now if it's not booking now. Don't say get a quote if it doesn't say get a quote. All those things there. Thanks
Yeah.
for coming on, and we'll get off our soapbox now.
I love it. Thanks so much, Alan.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Wedding Business Solutions podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe to this channel and post a review on your chosen platform, Apple Podcasts or whichever one. If you have any questions about anything in this episode or any of my episodes, email me directly at alan@weddingbusinesssolutions.com or visit my website, alanberg.com, alanberg.com. If you have any suggestions for future topics or guests that you'd like to see, please again email me or visit my website. Thanks for listening.